Hello, my name is Kyle Hirschfeld, and in this video I will defend my research paper which focused on the entrepreneurial character of Adolph Coors, the founder of Coors Brewing Company, and the practices which made him a successful businessman. Firstly, the research question which I addressed was this: what characteristics made Adolph Coors a successful entrepreneur? How did those characteristics help him overcome the numerous obstacles in his and his company's life? And how did those qualities find their way into his business and family's legacy? The reason I chose this question, or rather the significance of this question, is predicated upon the success and influence maintained by Adolph Coors and his family throughout the 20th century. Fewer names had more influence in Colorado than that of Coors, and it was through the actions of Adolph Coors the First that this was made possible. Furthermore, Adolph Coors is a fascinating character, as he was able to navigate the turbulent nature of the late 1800s and early 1900s with the advent of Prohibition, the introduction of new brewing techniques, as well as unexpected natural disasters. For this project, I consulted newspapers from the region and in and around Colorado in order to discover the things going on in Adolph Coors' personal contributions, movements, and ideas. Unfortunately, Coors himself did not leave behind a readily accessible written record, and the Coors family has been notoriously tight-lipped about family history. However, given the natures of Coors' business, as well as his popularity in Colorado and his business acumen, there was much to draw upon in terms of sources regarding his entrepreneurial spirit, his corporate efforts, and his heroic character in times of crisis. Given that I am not an overly mathematical person, I chose to make this a narrative picture, and thus approached my research from a comparative standpoint, qualitative rather than a quantitative one. Throughout this process, I consulted newspapers from the 1890s through the 1930s, as Adolph Coors himself died in 1929, his legacy by then firmly established. My research led me to several conclusions. Firstly, Coors' entrepreneurial character was driven by an almost single-minded obsession with crafting a great beer. To this end, his company did not vary from production and distribution of one particular kind of beer, Coors Golden Lager, during his lifetime. Also in honor of this quest, Coors centered his product upon and in the region around Colorado throughout his lifetime, leading eventually to a sort of cult status for the Coors beer in the 1970s, which is displayed in the Burt Reynolds movie, Smokey and the Bandit, which saw Burt Reynolds smuggling Coors beer to the East Coast. This led also to the simplicity of Coors Brewing Company's ads, which stated only that Coors Golden Lager was sold in a given area, or that and that it was brewed from the precious waters of the Clear Creek, which incidentally almost shut down Coors forever when it flooded in 1893, though Adolph Coors himself was able to act quickly, bribing families on the other side of the creek where Coors, the factory, was itself founded, so that he could buy the family's land and divert the creek, thus saving the factory. This willingness to adapt was also displayed to an even greater extent when Coors was faced with Prohibition in 1916, and the Coors Brewing Company became the Coors Porcelain Company and started creating milk and porcelain products in order to survive the Prohibition years. It was during these years that one further area of research could be delved into, as the nature of Coors' relationship with labor unions became quite different during this time. In his early career, Coors was firmly in favor of unions. He was in favor of workers' rights. He was a big proponent of those things. But then in 1916, he suddenly becomes anti-union. So it is unclear whether this is a slow or an immediate process, this change from being pro to anti-union. There's little evidence from primary or secondary literature to suggest one way or the other, but it can be supposed that given the family's subsequent vitriol over time from Adolph Coors the First's death through the early 2000s, that the Coors company was against unions and against unionizing. It suggests that Coors himself became embittered towards unions and those who were members of unions over time. Thank you for watching. Good luck in your future courses, and good luck in this course. Thanks.